What's going on, guys? Matthew back again, this time for another political video. Today we have stories involving the auto pen scandal I'm sure you've heard about regarding Biden's signatures regarding the pardons for Dr. Fauci and Mark Milley and others. We also have a story about Venezuelan gang members that are being shipped to Venezuela where they belong. We also have a really good news regarding the JFK files, so let's get into it.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
He was an anti-battery than his majority.
Excuse me.
Colin Rugg is a political commentator. His tweet states that just in, President Trump declares Biden's last-minute pardons before leaving office are void due to the alleged use of auto pen. Quote, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. Biden's pardons include his family members, Dr. Fauci, General Mark Milley, and the January 6th committee. And here you can see the actual footage of all these signatures, which, you know, obviously we all know because we've all signed things before that all of our signatures are going to look similar, but they're not all going to be exactly the same. And you can see here they actually match all of these different signatures from all these different pardons. You can see they're exactly the same. I'll play it for you now. And according to the research I've done, AutoPen is something that presidents use just because they may have a lot of different things they have to sign, whether it's executive actions, pardons, or whatever. But the thing is that the president has to be present. And obviously, Joe Biden had mental problems. We all know that. So how valid is this? It doesn't seem to be very valid at the moment. Here is Donald Trump's Truth. You can follow him at Truth Social, and I think that I do follow an account on Twitter that posts all of his truths onto Twitter, so you can always follow him there as well. But this is Donald J. Trump's truth right here. The quote-unquote pardons that Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect, because of the fact that they were done by AutoPen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the Unselect Committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. Now, obviously, just because Trump says that they're void, vacant, and of no further force or effect, that doesn't set it in stone immediately. I'm sure there's some kind of trial, court fiasco that we have to go through for this. There's going to have to be evidence, which, you know, this right here is pretty good evidence, but we're going to continue looking at this. And obviously we all know that Joe Biden was not at his best mentally during these last days or even his entire term. But if this can actually be proven without a shadow of a doubt, this goes a long way. And we have here another tweet from Patrick Beck David, PBD, from the PBD podcast. He says, this is bad news for Fauci, Milley, January 6th committee, and Biden's family members. An AutoPen can be used by presidents for administrative documents, but pardons require a wet signature by the president. That's huge. I highly doubt we'll see people going to jail, but President Trump now has a ton of leverage, and this is where you get to decide, would you rather Trump use this as leverage, or do you want these people to go to jail? I want them to go to jail. I don't know what Trump could get in turn for the leverage that he would have. I just want to see people go to jail. That's what I've wanted to see for a long time now, especially Dr. Fauci, who claimed to be the science himself. And here's another tweet by PBD. Here's ChatGPT's response. A pardon needs to be personally signed according to ChatGPT. Can presidents use AutoPen for pardons? No. U.S. presidents cannot use an AutoPen to sign pardons. The Constitution grants the president the exclusive power to issue pardons under Article 2, Section 2, and legal interpretation suggests that a pardon must be personally signed by the president to be valid. So now it would seem that the proof is on them to prove to us that he actually signed it with a wet pen. Is there a video? Are there images? do we have anything other than these fake signatures? But then right underneath that, we have Grok, which I believe is that AI from Twitter. It says here, it's tweeting back at PBD, research shows AutoPen is likely valid for pardons, not just administrative documents. No legal rule requires a wet signature. Presidents like Obama used it for bills, and Biden's pardons face no legal voiding despite debate. Your claim seems off based on history and practice. So, like I said, this is going to be deliberated further, and we're going to see if this is actually illegal or not, and if it is, it's very, very huge news. And here's something else regarding the story. Regarding pardons specifically, there's no constitutional requirement that a president must sign them by hand. Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution grants the president the power to, quote, grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, end quote. But it doesn't specify how this must be executed. A 2005 Justice Department opinion further clarified that a president doesn't need to physically affix their signature to a bill for it to become law, suggesting that an AutoPen is legally acceptable as long as the president authorizes its use. This precedent likely extends to pardons, which are an exercise of executive clemency. So this is going to be battled out, most likely in the courts and everything. But it's good that Trump brought attention to it, and I'm hoping that this does turn out to be really good leverage for Trump and that they do go to jail. And the second story I have for you is regarding these Venezuelan gang members who were sent on flights back to Venezuela to be put in Venezuelan prisons, because why would we put them in our prisons if they're Venezuelan illegal immigrant gang members? And then while the flight was on its way, a judge ordered that it needed to turn around, and that it basically tried to offset what Trump did. Trump ignored it, and basically he's just going to try to settle this in the courts, I guess. But I'm glad he ignored it, because every time he tries to do something, there's a judge somewhere that tries to counteract it, and it's very annoying. And it's just all politics. It's not based on what's best for the American people. But here's this story from Daily Mail. Terrifying truth about gangsters on Trump's deportation flights and why they were sent to America. Millions of Americans were shocked when President Trump invoked a wartime law to deport Tren de Aragua gangsters on planes that flew to El Salvador. And this wartime law, I think, was set in like 1798, something like that. You have to fact check me. It says here, but one expert said the 238 men seen being handcuffed and led away may have been acting directly on behalf of Venezuela's rogue government. Miami immigration attorney Rolando Vasquez says he believes communist dictator Nicolas Maduro deployed the Tren de Aragua gangsters as, quote, foot soldiers to destabilize the U.S. He agrees that Trump was well within his rights to get rid. In my opinion, what Maduro did was an act of war. He sent his agents here to attack us. What Maduro did was send them over here for the purpose of expanding their operations and terrorizing and attacking U.S. citizens. Tren de Aragua gangsters have been blamed for a horrific crime wave since first crossing into the United States over the southern border in 2022. Thank you, Joe Biden. It has also been linked to Lebanon's Hezbollah terrorist group, as DailyMail.com exclusively reported. Law enforcement also believes the Venezuelan syndicate has been executing crimes on orders from the Maduro regime. Quote, they are directly connected to the Maduro regime in Venezuela. No question about it, former ICE Special Agent Victor Avila told DailyMail.com on Monday. As a matter of fact, they're tied to Cartel de los Soles, which Maduro is the head of. That in itself is enough to qualify them. Trump designated TDA, as the mobsters are known to law enforcement, as a terrorist organization when he took office in January. And any gang like that should be labeled as a terrorist organization. So good on Trump there. The president invoked the Aliens Enemies Act Saturday. That gives his administration the ability to deport any Venezuelan in the U.S. over the age of 14 who is suspected of being a Tren de Aragua gangster without seeing a judge or following the normal due process. Even though a U.S. judge issued a restraining order saying that 3 airplanes carrying TDA members bound for El Salvador must turn back, the Trump administration ignored the ruling and landed in the Central American country anyway. Good on him. They said that the jets were over international waters by the time the ruling came through, meaning the judge did not have jurisdiction. Avila, the former ICE agent who has close ties to Trump border czar Tom Homan, adds that the Trump team is still planning on deporting more suspected TDA members under the Alien Enemies Act. Quote, remember, they're terrorists, and that's what we need to start calling them because that's what they are, Avila added. You would never release an ISIS member. We wouldn't be having this conversation if this was ISIS. So why are we having this conversation when it's Tren de Aragua? And here's this footage of these guys being loaded onto these planes or being loaded into these cells. And it is a really beautiful thing to see. Let me mute it because you don't need sound for this. And, you know, you're going to have some people like, oh, why are they walking them like this? Is that really humane? It's very important to humiliate these people, film it, and put it all over the internet for everybody to see. That is very important. I love this. Is it necessary? Yes, it is. And you'll see here in a second, they're even like shaving their heads. I love that they walked them down the hall like that. They want to act like animals and treat them like animals. Yeah, so they're shaving their head. I love it. It's really great to see. Let everybody know that we're in charge. I love it. Many legal experts have made the case that Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act is illegal because the U.S. is not at war with Venezuela. And the only times the law has been used is when the country was in a declared war. Trump has made the case that TDAs attacked the U.S. through irregular warfare. In the U.S., members of the gang have been charged in the murder of Laken Riley, the beating of NYPD officers, and the takeover of multiple apartment complexes across the country. I remember that story. Tren de Aragua, which means train from Aragua for the Venezuelan province where the gang was born, has carried out the dictator's orders for years. Quote, the Maduro regime is essentially a cartel. They have the name of the Cartel de los Soles, Miami immigration attorney Rolando Vasquez said in an interview with DailyMail.com. They are the largest cartel on this side of the hemisphere, so all criminal organizations underneath him, if they're not in line with him, they can't operate. Under Maduro's regime, Tren de Aragua expanded outside the walls of the Tacoron prison where it was born, spreading within Venezuela and later throughout South America. In Venezuela, being a TDA member carries a status symbol, and they are well-known Chavistas, loyal supporters of the communist regime that began with Hugo Chavez. These guys are Chavistas, if I'm saying that correctly. These guys are communists, they're socialists. This is all very good news, and like I said previously, it's very good that everyone sees, and here's that footage of them taking over the apartment complex in Colorado. You probably saw about that. You probably saw this a couple months ago. But it is very good that we show images like this and that we show footage like this here. Okay, and I wanted to end on a good note. This is some really good information here regarding what's going to happen tomorrow. I will let Trump tell you all about it.
We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this. And I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow.
Okay, so we're getting the JFK files tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. I can't wait to see what's in them. People have been waiting since the 60s to see this. I'm hoping for no redactions, although I'm not getting my hopes too high for that. There's probably going to be some redactions. I am not going to allow myself to get too excited because we've been disappointed so many times when it comes to releasing files and then certain things are redacted, or that whole fiasco with the binders that I reported on a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. But I'm not going to let myself get too excited. We're going to see what happens tomorrow, how good these files actually are. Do they actually tell us who killed them? The actual names and images and things of that nature. But anyway, guys, those are the stories for today. Let me know if I missed any information in the comments below. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me on anything. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.